So today we're going to talk about one of the most highly anticipated and exciting moments in the series, which will be Shanks and Luffy reuniting after 12 odd years. I think that's right. Yeah, 12 years, and how that's going to go down, because it's going to be very interesting to see just the emotions, but also the way in which Oda takes the whole interaction. Now, if you don't know where I am when I'm making this video, then go down to the description, check out, I put what chapter is the most recent one at the time of filming this, and possibly when the anime catches up, I'll probably put an episode as well. But that's going to be interesting just to see how that goes down between the two of them once they meet. Now, I think very quickly, I just want to tackle the thing of the Straw Hat, because I think the Straw Hat is the most interesting question. It makes sense for it to stay with Luffy because Luffy, that's kind of his brand now. He's Straw Hat Luffy, they are the Straw Hat Pirates. But at the same time, they did make that deal of like, hey, bring this back to me when you become the great pirate. And Luffy's like, sure. So for Luffy, I mean, he doesn't mention it as much in the story anymore, but he does mention that he made a promise to give this back. He's holding it for somebody. So Luffy, he doesn't care about that being his brand, you know, he'll give it back. But I think it may have to do with something, you know, between the relationship of, between Roger and Shanks, and why Roger gave the hat to Shanks in the first place. So we might get a little bit more there when they meet in terms of who's going to keep the Straw Hat from now on. Now that we put that aside, I think what I really wanted to get into was Luffy and Shanks. What's going to happen? Is going to be a party? Of course. I think there's no doubt that there will be a party involved in Luffy and Shanks. I think Luffy and Shanks, from the time we met them, were having fun in a bar. So I think to just say that that's not going to happen, I think it's a bit weird. I mean, yes, you can have all whatever you want. Maybe Blackbeard will kill Shanks, maybe something. But when they meet, I expect there to be some kind of party. So I think that is something that I'm set on. But I don't think that the party is all there is. And I think it was very hard at first to see some kind of fight between Shanks and Luffy, because we didn't know what Shanks wanted in the world. It felt weird for him to fight him because all the people Luffy fought were essentially bad guys. So to fight Shanks is kind of like, is Shanks now evil? Right? But I think, you know, having seen Shanks since the end of Wano and him now wanting the One Piece, I think that's going to be a very big deal for him going forward. And I think that, you know, possibly now we're building up Shanks as having some kind of ambition. And obviously that makes it easier for them to have this fight, to build up this fight where you have two people who are ambitious for the same thing. And that's how they're going to end up, you know, throwing hands and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll get to see an actual interesting fight, but not with the kind of stakes as in freeing everyone in a country or oppression or, you know, freedom, you know, in some kind of highly dramatic sense. And the stakes are high for everyone in the country. It's more going to be more of, I want this thing, you want this thing, but there can only be one winner in the end deal, I think. Now, the exact details of this interaction are a bit more clear now that we know that Kid is headed to Elbaf, because with Kid heading to Elbaf and Shanks being on Elbaf with this, so we're going to get this kind of rematch between Kid Pirates and Shanks and his allies, because it seems Elbaf is their base. It's going to be interesting to see how this turns out, because I think this is going to be really reflective of how we're going to get Luffy versus Shanks. I think this fight in particular is going to build that up. And honestly, I don't know how this fight is going to go, right? This video is not really about them, but I don't know how that's going to go. But I expect that whatever happens to Law and Blackbeard, a similar thing will happen between Shanks and Kid. If Law manages to escape, Kid will escape. If Law dies, Kid will die. I think the two of them have a similar fate there in that sense. But hey, I don't really know what's going to happen. Not the point. Point is, I think we're going to get a lot of setup of Shanks, his crew, who's involved, his allies. As we've already seen, he already has Dory, Brogy, Olmo, and Kashi. And in that video, when I talked about that, you can go check that out with Shanks and his allies. I mentioned that I expect one more giant. And the reason why, and bring this here now, is because I think this battle between Shanks and Luffy is going to be so epic and legendary, because I don't expect the same help that Luffy got defeating Kaido and Big Mom. Right, there was two Yonko, it was this nation of samurai, there was so much to do, and Luffy wasn't ready to fight an emperor on his own, so he needed so much help. But now to have Luffy one-on-one, one emperor versus another emperor, that is going to be an epic clash of, you know, incredible proportions. Which is interesting because at the end of Dressrosa, we do get mention that these allies of Luffy will be involved in a legendary battle. And I think that this is the legendary battle that they will be involved in, to see Shanks and all his allies versus Luffy and all his allies. But it's not going to be interesting just because of Shanks and Luffy. I think this battle is something where we're going to see so many different little storylines connect, so many comparisons between characters, and that's what's going to make it really interesting to see. For example, we're going to finally see probably the new giant pirates versus the old giant pirates. You know, Dory and Broggy were pirate captains of the giant pirates a long time ago, before they started their battle. And now you have the new giant pirates with Hyridin. And I think we know about 5 members. So it makes sense that the old giant pirates fight the new giant pirates. It makes sense that Luffy, you know, representing the new generation, fights Shanks, a remnant of an older generation. It makes sense that you have Yasop and Usopp there. It makes sense that you have, you know, as it's been said about Shanks' crew, they have many renowned and feared pirates who have reputations, big reputations in the New World. And in Luffy's crew, you have people like Cavendish, Barto, who are rookies, who are up and coming in the One Piece world. So you have the old generation versus the new generation on so many different levels between the crews and between their allies as well. So I think it's going to be very interesting on that level, you know, not just Luffy versus Shanks, but all the little storylines, you know, cutting through to see other fights, you know, kind of like Onigashima as well, cutting through to see how the giants feel about each other, how the pirates feel about each other, how other characters feel about each other. But at the same time, I think that's going to be a major difference between the Kid and Shanks battle. Like I said, I don't know how that's going to turn out exactly, but obviously Kid is not going to be successful in him and his one pirate crew taking down Shanks and all his allies. That just doesn't make sense. But I think it will be indicative of the fact that you can't, as much as you can be individually strong, as much as you can have a strong crew, you need allies in this world. You're not going to get very far if you don't have allies. And I think that's going to be the very big difference between Luffy finally versing Shanks and Kid versing Shanks. Because we've already seen it once before in the first match of Kid and Shanks, in which Kid didn't even make it to see Shanks' face. He got taken down by the many allies who are strong on Shanks' side. So this time, obviously, I expect Kid to do better than he did before because he's gotten stronger. But I still think that's going to be a very big issue, that he doesn't have enough allies to help push him to actually verse Shanks on his own. Meanwhile, Luffy, as we've seen several times before, Luffy has his right-hand men who always, you know, stop the enemy's allies, right? The Kaido's, whether it's Kaido's All-Stars, whether it's in Fishman Island, all those guys who are around Hody Jones, he's got his allies to take care of all these like side characters so that the main fight can happen between Luffy and, you know, the leader, whichever group he's facing. And so I think that's going to be a really important point that's going to be brought forward when we finally see it, like comparing Luffy versus Shanks to Kid versus Shanks. I mean, strength-wise, it's obvious, right? At least right now, both Luffy and Kid don't stand a chance against Shanks in a one-on-one. But by the time that Luffy gets there, he'll probably be stronger and it will be an even fight. And he'll have his allies. He'll have that legendary matchup. But how this fits into the entire storyline of what's going to happen, the final war and everything is anybody's guess. I'm just here to talk about that interaction. Better yet, question for the day is, how far do you think Kid was going to get, right? Because last time he didn't even see Shanks' face, right? So do you think that he'll get any further this time? Do you think that it will be pronounced so much that Kid won't even see Shanks for a second time? And that's how much of a role that having allies plays in a fight? Or do you think that Kid will kind of make it all the way to Shanks, but not have enough energy to even like face Shanks at all, right? So let me know how you think about the Kid battle, but also let me know what you think about Luffy versus Shanks. Like, what's going to be built up around there, and who are you excited to see? Like, if the Grand Fleet does come back to fight Shanks' fleet, who are you excited to see? Like, which matchups, which characters do you think will fight? Obviously, we don't know that much about Shanks' crew, but like, what kind of characters would you like to see go up against the Grand Fleet? Let me know all that and much more below. Thank you for watching the video. As always, please share, like, comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.